synthetic ones out of a lighter material, so you don't have to
So you know that article that you're showing right now, that's not in the lineup anymore, though.
Oh.
I just swapped it out. And I said something about it, but I didn't tell you particularly. That's the Alchemy Labs one.
Yeah, I see it. I see it.
Tom, I have a correction from last week.
Yeah?
I told you that it was the Terpster and I communicate via what's the app we talked about last week, the chat app, the Chinese one?
Oh, WeChat.
WeChat. It is WhatsApp. I told you wrong.
Okay. That makes more sense, though. I thought Terpster was being all...
I didn't even think about it until this morning because I had to talk to him, and I opened it and I went, oh, this is not the name I said.
Being all cosmopolitan.
WeChat and WhatsApp, though, right? Like, they're chat apps. They both begin with W. They both have green icons. Yeah. Like, I get
them confused. As I might.
I'm gonna hide.
Don't run, Roger. Come back.
We greatly appreciate you informing us on 3 separate occasions that you are leaving the chat. Sorry. I might be reading a second paragraph of the word.
Join the chat room. I left the chat room. Join the chat room. I left the chat room. Somebody's having login issues.
Yeah.
Well, gents, I think we're go for quality technology discussion.
I agree. I'm going to concur.
Stand well back away from your screens, ladies and gentlemen. Today's topic may be explosive.
To your eyeballs.
All right. I should do that and hope that works because I didn't test it. Flying by the seat of my pants. Here we go.
Oh, no.
Quality content thrives through the support of those who benefit from its creation. If you gain value from the Daily Tech News Show, consider joining others like me who provide support. Learn how to help at dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
This is the Daily Tech News for Wednesday, May 10th, 2017. I'm Tom Merritt. Thank you for joining us. Our job here is to give you some context and understanding around all that tech news every day, make you sound a little smarter when you're talking to your friends and family. And Scott Judson is here to help us do just that. How are you, Scott?
I'm good. I'm prepared to do all those things you just said and more.
A little bit different rundown today. Mostly the same, but we're going to spend a little time on Microsoft Build in between the main news of the day and our discussion topic. Microsoft Build, more developer-centered, more enterprise-centered, but we know some of you out there care about it, so we aren't going to spend a ton of time on it, but we will tell you what's going on there. And then we're going to talk about robots that can operate on your eyes, a topic that is relevant to your life, right, Scott?
Yeah, for me specifically, I've had 2 separate eye surgeries that were a little nip and tuck, a little crazy, a little weird why I had to have them in the first place. This wasn't voluntary surgery. And the idea of robots taking that job over at the same time scares me and excites me because I think we're getting there, but I'd still be really nervous having a robot poke my eyes. I mean, these are our most delicate of little things in our bodies, man. These are the things we need these things.
Not in the eyes is what I always say when people are spraying me with pepper spray. I know what you meant with nip and tuck.
Yeah.
But nip and tuck, usually used to refer to cosmetic surgery, made me think you were like getting eyeball enhancement surgery.
That's a really good point. Yeah, I did not do that. Although the end result was kind of enhancing. But as it turns out, a doctor who gets paid a lot of money to do what he did to me didn't do that much. And what I mean by that is a machine could probably have done it. So we'll talk about
that's what we're going to talk about. Let's start, however, with a few tech things you should know about. Opera released an update to its browser codenamed Reborn. The new version revamps the UI and integrates WhatsApp, Telegram, and Messenger in the sidebar for quick access.
Oh, very nice. Google announced it's acquiring Alchemy Labs for the VR game company, or these are a VR game company, by the way, behind games such as Job Simulator and the currently top-selling Rick and Morty VR experience/game that's up on Steam right now. I do not know why they bought them, but hey, they're theirs now to do with what they will.
They are going to put them right into Daydream, is my guess.
Probably.
Toyota announced it will use NVIDIA's Drive PX platform in its autonomous cars. NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang said the hope is the cars will hit the markets in the next few years. Everybody's pairing up out there for autonomous cars.
NVIDIA's got their finger in every pie, hand in every cookie jar, as the kids say. Facebook announced that starting Wednesday, that's today, it will downgrade links to pages that have disproportionate number of ads in relation to content. Pages with pop-up ads or full-screen ads will also be downgraded.
Oh, downgrading the pages. I'm sure no one will complain. All right, here's some more top stories. Apple agreed to acquire the Finnish sleep tracking device maker Bedit. Somebody likes Reddit and wanted to name their sleep tracking company after it. The company previously sold its Bedit 3 sleep monitor in the Apple Store. That one has apps for iOS and Apple Watch, and the Apple Watch doesn't natively support sleep tracking. So the theory is Apple wanted to acquire Bedit to be able to do that. Bedit updated its privacy policy to advise customers that its data is now subject to Apple's policy. So apparently you can still use the app, but you're under the Apple privacy policy now.
Do you suppose they have a version of the bed, like a single or a small twin, that they call the sub-Bedit?
Yes, if you're sleeping in a smaller bed, you'll need to use our sister app.
That's great. Sometimes those comments can get out of control, so be careful there. Mozilla has decided to keep the Thunderbird email client. If you heard rumors it was going away, well, then I guess you were wrong, at least for now. As long as its development happens independent of Firefox, that's important to them. However, if the project does not make meaningful progress, Mozilla reserves the right, as they put it, to end support for the project with 6 months' notice. Thunderbird has currently got its own home over at thunderbird.net. I used to be a rabid Thunderbird user. This would have been circa 05, 06. And I haven't touched it in years, so I worry just from my own personal memories of the thing that maybe it's not getting the support it needs, and I worry it might go away.
Well, it's getting a reprieve today, so that's the good news. Mozilla had, after it decided to get out of the Firefox OS game, decided that it really wasn't going to spend time keeping Firefox and Thunderbird up to date in tandem. And a lot of people thought that, well, that's the end for Thunderbird. Maybe they'll spin out the source code and some independent open source project will take it over. But this is a better solution by most accounts, where it gets to stay in the Mozilla house. It just has to prove that it can be a project on its own, without getting in the way of the Firefox project in any way.
What's a bummer is, you notice, I looked in the App Store here, both on Google Play and on iOS. If you search for Thunderbird email, there's a whole bunch of autocomplete searches where people are looking for that client. It does not exist on most platforms. So I don't know. I just like they missed the boat or something. Sometimes I feel like Mozilla Firefox.
People use it on the desktop still and really, really are rabid about it. So
yeah, some people love it. I used to really, really like it. I think Gmail just sort of weaned me off. But in a way, they remind me, the Mozilla Firefox Thunderbird combo, they're like what company is this like? It's like BlackBerry kind of. It's like they're just chugging along. They're killing it. Everybody loves them. They're the sort of independent open source darlings for years and years and years. And then Chrome comes in and makes everybody's life miserable. It's just a
I don't know if it was Chrome or alone or phones. People just started using mail on their phones. And like you say, there was no Thunderbird client, and iOS and Android didn't make it easy for there to be a client to manage your mail that way. So, yeah. Big news right before the show started. Snap reported its first earnings since going public. Maker of Snapchat announced 166 million daily active users, up 5% from last quarter. That's a very slow rate, though. Snap has been growing much faster than that in the past. Snap reported $149.6 million in revenue, losing $2.31 a share. You'll see it reported they lost $2.2 billion. A lot of that has to do with IPO costs, so that was not unexpected. But still, the $149.6 million in revenue and $2.31 loss is worse than expected. It was expected to make $158 million and lose 21 cents a share. So Snap stock in the post-close market was getting pummeled. We'll see if that continues, but not the rosiest first earnings report for good old Snap. And I saw Casey Newton from The Verge already tweeting that the meme now is Snap is the new Twitter.
Yeah, that's pretty hardcore. I have a uneducated theory that I will quickly share, and that is that I have always felt that Snapchat, to the betterment of its initial users, was very hard to use. Like, it was purposefully weird and hard to get around, and it didn't use some intuitive controls that you're sort of used to across other apps. And I think that was to their benefit because it became the cool kids thing and everybody wanted to get on board. They're now still sort of stuck in that a little bit. and they're hitting a ceiling, and that ceiling is, well, you got the cool kids. Do you want to go past that or not? And maybe going past that means they have to bring it in a little bit, just rope it in just a tiny bit for the rest of us.
Well, I think they could leave us out and go after, you know, an 18 to 34 market and dominate it, and be just fine. That would work. You can build a business on that. But they're not only not expanding to us olds, but they're also not growing as much as they had been. And I think a lot of that does have to do with the competition from Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah, those are the other factors you cannot ignore.
All right, I'm going to read you out the Microsoft build news, and you, as a non-developer, tell me on a scale of no, you don't have to do a scale, but we'll see how much consumer oriented interest it engenders in you, Scott.
Right.
Microsoft announced Windows 10 has passed 500 million monthly active users, making it the fastest growing version of Windows of all time. Still not getting as much uptake in enterprise as they would like. 141 million devices, or about 28% of Windows 10 users, use Cortana monthly. So good uptake on Windows 10, which is free, so you'd expect that. Not so great usage of Cortana, which is built in.
I have yet to use it on any of my Windows machines, and I don't know why. I'm not avoiding it. Maybe I'm having personal assistant overload. I do think it's great that these numbers look good on overall Windows uptick. I think that it probably does show that they're throwing more of their guts behind a consumer focus, and there's a reason why it hasn't grown the way they've wanted it to in enterprise, because that focus takes away from enterprise focus. So none of that is surprising to me. But yeah, Cortana, she just sort of sits there. I don't know what she does. Probably help me for all I know.
Yeah, she probably would. Just say hey and her name and see what she does. Visual Studio 2017 for Mac is now available to all and uses the integrated development environment across Windows and Mac. I'm guessing you don't use Visual Studio, though.
I don't, but I know that it matters, and I know that it's like back there doing stuff. And when I install a game on my Windows PC, I see that it has to like do some update to Visual Studio 2017, and so I'm all for that. So bring it on. It's boring, but it's great.
Yeah, and it's not boring if you use it, and the fact that you can now use it across multiple OSs is pretty exciting for a lot of people. Lots of Azure news. Azure is Microsoft's cloud services. Microsoft launched Azure Batch AI training in private preview for training deep neural networks on the Azure cloud platform. The platform promises to let developers focus on training AI models and in pretty fast focus in sometimes without worrying about the infrastructure. Microsoft also announced Azure Cosmos DB, a globally distributed schema-free database service with 5 consistency choices. Those consistency choices are a big deal for people who work in this kind of database. Azure IoT Edge also arrived in preview with support for Windows and Linux to extend cloud computing to edge devices. That's one of those big trends that Rich Stroffolino identified, which is having the edge devices do a lot of computing and then bundling up data and sending it to the cloud for latency-independent processing. Among the many other Azure announcements, Azure Cloud Shell gives an authenticated browser shell experience. Azure SQL Database got general availability. And Microsoft released mobile apps for iOS and Android to help manage applications using Azure. That'll be interesting for a sysadmin on the go, I expect.
Yep, it's that right there is a big mouthful, but all of it sounds leading edge, and that's probably good.
Yeah. Microsoft launched image and video recognition products. Video Indexer can identify faces, voices, and emotions. And custom vision search lets developers recognize images. One of the uses for the tools that was discussed was identifying images in videos that an advertiser might not want to be associated with. They could just read them and go, oh, yeah, just keep us away from that.
Oh, interesting. So that's the sort of stuff we may actually see seep into more consumer-related products at some point.
Yeah, and Bing will get some benefit out of that as well.
Sure.
Microsoft launched a new set of skills for Cortana. Users can now ask Cortana for a weather forecast from Dark Sky. You can also link a Domino's Pizza account, order food from Cortana. Other new skills include iHeartRadio, TuneIn, OpenTable, and Cat Facts. Microsoft also announced HP and Intel are building Cortana-powered devices, and the Cortana Skills Kit is now live in public preview in the US for people who want to develop for it. Does any of this make you more willing to say hey to your friend Cortana?
Maybe. I mean, they, along with Google, seem to be taking a tact, and I guess certainly Amazon are taking this tact of personal assistance and AI help, and all that stuff is going to be you're going to have better traction if you let other people build products around it, open some of that up. The skill system is really cool. I love that on my Echo. All this reminds me that maybe they've got something in the wings, maybe they have some plan, maybe they're really working on it, but Apple is so missing the boat on this stuff. Every time a new announcement happens, the new stuff from Echo, this announcement at the Build conference just reminds me that right now SIRI is kind of stuck in the mud. She's just not doing anything, and it's a bummer because I like her, generally speaking, and I kind of like the ecosystem, and I like what has been done. I liked when she was sort of ahead of the game a little bit, and now she's getting left way behind. So
rumors are there's going to be a smart speaker from Apple, and we may hear at least about some kind of development kit for Siri at WWDC.
Right. But it's I hope what's happening is this is the groundwork by which they and other newcomers may come into the market and say, yes, these are good ideas. The skill system that they've all been using, the integration with other services that aren't even our services. Like, that's what I want to see from the future of this is lots of integration. So when it comes to choice, it ends up being aesthetic, maybe brand preference, but really you're getting the same sort of functionality across the board. And it seems like Microsoft's interested in doing that too. And they need to be, because you're not going to have a closed Windows platform where Cortana is going to perform well, because you need to reach outside, and they've been doing that with all their products. So that's all good news to me.
Last build announcement we have for you today. Microsoft showed off Presentation Translator, a feature for PowerPoint that can provide real-time translated subtitles and text while preserving the original formatting. The service supports Arabic, Chinese, English, French, German, Italian, Japanese, Portuguese, Russian, and Spanish. And if you want to sign up for the closed preview, head to aka.ms/translator PowerPoint.
How accurate do you think it'll be?
Well, how accurate is that Skype translation? I imagine they're using that same engine since it's internal to Microsoft.
I've used that a little bit. You're probably right. It's probably going to be okay. Like, it'll probably be better than your average Google Translate moment on the web or something. So I'm really curious about that, because there are a lot of people in the business world.
Especially when exactly. When you're in a business situation, you don't want that translation to go awry.
No.
Yeah.
You want to say, hey, sales are up. You don't want to say, hey, there's a worm in my apple, or whatever.
Or up yours instead of sales. If you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, subscribe to our other show. Keep up to date fast at dailytechheadlines.com, available on the Amazon Echo as a flash briefing, and also in the app Anchor at anchor.fm. And that is a look at our top stories. All right. I want to talk about this surgical system. I saw it on Engadget. There's a good write-up over at NBCnews.com as well. Developed by a team at the University of Oxford, or at least worked on, used in surgical performances by a team at the University of Oxford, called the Robotic Retinal Dissection Device. Yes, they abbreviate it R2D2. This has been in development since 2011. The system was developed by the Preceyes BV, a Dutch medical robotics firm established at the University of Eindhoven by Smet, by a man named Smet. Retinal surgery requires that small holes be punctured in the eye, very small holes that you could just barely move around in to gain access to the retina and remove things like growths. And even the steadiest human surgeon has a pulse, one hopes. So that pulse jogs the hand. And at that level of precision, that's something you have to adapt to. Not to mention the person's eye has a pulse as well. So there's risks of cutting too deeply, what they call touching the retina, which can cause scarring. R2D2, the retinal robot, not the droid, moves 10 microns at a time. It's 10 times as precise as humans, and it can avoid those mistakes. So a surgeon still controls it, but they control it with a touchscreen and a joystick, and the robot makes sure to react in a nice, smooth manner. The first set of clinical trials have been passed. They started with a 70-year-old priest in September, followed by 5 more successful surgeries. They also did 6 control surgeries at the same time. And let me tell you how it turned out. Robot incurred 2 microhemorrhages, that's minor bleeding, caused by the knife, and 1 retinal touch. One time it actually cut just a tad too deep, but no damages. They were all successful surgeries, even the control ones. So 2 microhemorrhages and 1 retinal touch. The human control group had 5 microhemorrhages and 2 retinal touches. So It turned out pretty good, Scott.
Yeah, it did. So, okay, if we go way back when I was 14 years old, I had retinal detachment surgery.
A rat detached your retina. Horrible story.
I wrestled this kid I knew in high school named Jim Jensen on a trampoline, and it popped my retina off, is the short story. And they took me in there and they did all kinds of stuff. And I was too young to really know what was going on, but I remember it being very involved and very dangerous and lots of doctors standing around and all that sort of stuff. They were able to make it work. And then it turns out there was a genetic disorder in my family line on my dad's side, where when you're normally supposed to get cataracts in your 80s, most people, I get them mid 30s, early 40s. And my dad did, his dad did before them, and his grandfather did also. And it's fun to watch how all of those generations had the work done. The original generation had to literally hold still for 7 days with 2 sandbags between their heads after the lenses in their eyes were literally removed with nothing to replace them, and then spend the rest of their lives with giant Coke bottle glasses, which is where that term came from. And then his dad, they had perfected the surgery a little bit better, but it required all sorts of correction and stuff later. My dad's case was a lot like mine. In my case, it was about an 8-minute surgery per eye. They went in. I listened to, he had some old 70s power rock going, which was cool. Nice. Goes into my eyes, cuts out my lenses, grinds them up, sucks them out, and puts in 2 silicone-based with some metals replacement lenses. And these replacement lenses, and the lenses I'm wearing right now, if those watching video, aren't doing anything. These are just for glare. But he basically took my vision, which was about this close with this eye, which is about a half a foot away from my eye, and the other eye was right up next to it. I had terrible vision. And now everything's locked in around this sort of computer screen range. And it's awesome and it's amazing. However, there were a couple of moments during the surgeries where if he had the precision he wanted, we could have even improved this range even more. He could have put it in a place that was even better. And so the idea of letting a robot do this, and not just letting it do it willy-nilly without the help of a surgeon, but do it like they're doing it in these tests where you still have a great mind at control, is brilliant. I would do it in a heartbeat. I would love to go back in there, because once I have to get these laser things to take off buildup on the new lenses, it's a problem unique to me because, again, I'm not 80, and my eye is trying to grow stuff back that we took out.
Well, I wonder if that buildup is the kind of buildup that this surgery they were doing is meant to remove.
Correct. And there's different ways of getting rid of it. One of them is a handheld laser, and there's a lot of shaking with that. And it's just not very accurate. I would love to go in there and just sit back and have a very precise machine at the hands of a professional do this in roughly the same time or less.
Yeah, because this robot has 7 independent motors, can move at precisely as 1 micron at a time.
Mm-hmm.
You want that.
That's crazy. There's no way my doctor is moving 1 micron at a time.
No doctor is. Probably 10 microns tops.
Sure.
At their best.
And I asked him, I even said, he told me that the cataract surgery is the #1 surgery performed through the world. So if you go around and check every surgery and add them all up, cataract surgeries are the most. There's a lot of undeveloped nations where there's nutritional reasons why they get cataracts early. Kids get it and that sort of thing. So there's a lot of these performed, and because they're performed so much, they've gotten it down to a really good science. They can do them really quickly. It's just kind of a piece of cake. The next natural move for this is to go to a more automated, more precision-based solution. And I'm all for it. I'm sure this stuff's going to be very expensive, maybe more so than it was before, because now you have an expensive doctor working on an expensive piece of hardware. But for people like me, this seems like a great move forward. And when I have to go in for my upkeep with those lasers, I would kind of rather have automated robot do it.
Yeah. The next one they want to do is to outfit the machine with needles so that it can be used to inject fluids into the back of the eye, like those used for retinal gene therapy. Some of that retinal gene therapy can't be done right now because it's just not safe for a human hand to do it, to go behind, to go into the back of the eye. But these robots are precise enough that they could give it a shot.
Yeah. And keep in mind, we're talking about your eyes. I mean, it's the most, I think, the most important perceptual organ we get, right? It's the one, and we get 2 of them. And sometimes one works better than the other. And sometimes you lose one, you keep one, whatever. There's a lot of variations out there, but man, it's so good to have a pair of eyes that work. So anytime there's innovation in the area of sort of ocular transplants or people figuring out how ways to deal with some of the more chronic conditions that can affect people with their eyes, like myopia or bad cases of ocular degeneration or that sort of thing. That's really good for humanity. So I think this stuff is awesome.
And I know we have a lot of listeners in our audience who don't have good eyesight or any eyesight at all in some cases. We're talking about the kind of thing that can make it easier to restore sight for certain problems. And back in January, doctors at the University Hospitals Leuven in Belgium successfully trialed a robotic syringe for treating retinal vein occlusion, which normally requires the surgeon to inject into a 0.1 millimeter wide vein for 10 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
That's something I want a robot doing. I mean, I don't have steady enough hands to be a surgeon anyway, but I can't imagine.
Yeah, I would take a robot during an earthquake over a unsteady-handed surgeon holding that for 10 minutes. I mean, maybe that's an exaggeration, but no, like I'm no longer, I move into this future of this sort of biotech stuff with less and less fear, because these are the kinds of precisions we need. And then this is going to lead to other stuff. Eyes today, kidney tomorrow, or some other really small place somewhere on the human body that needs very special, very steady attention. And we know there are plenty of those. So more robots, please.
Well, thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. Keeps these cool stories coming. You can submit your own. Go do it and vote on the others. So dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. We got some emails to get to today as well. Jesse, aka hometown rival in Indianapolis, longtime listener and new DTNS analyst. Congratulations, Jesse. He says at least after June 1st when Patreon takes his money. I wanted to pass along an interesting website for those that follow or have an affinity for startups called Startup Graveyard. The site features a selection of startups that attempted greatness but ultimately did not succeed. I personally was very disheartened when my beloved Ardio was the first startup showcased on my initial visit to the site. Startup Graveyard does a really nice job of segmenting the startups by category, providing details as to why the startup didn't succeed, and listing competitors. If you or someone you know is creating their own startup, this is sure to be an invaluable resource to help learn from mistakes of the past.
Yeah, I've been here before. It's funny he brought up the Ardio example. Ardio didn't so much get killed by anybody but themselves, because remember, these are the Twitter guys, and it's the
Skype guys.
Oh, is it the Skype guys?
Yep.
Oh, I have had that story wrong this whole time then. Well, never mind then. Forget those guys.
Janice Fries.
Screw you, Twitter.
Yep. Adam in San Diego writes, you may remember me as the guy who pitted his Amazon Echo and Google Home against each other in a never-ending loop on a very popular YouTube video. I've found that the Echo's edge lies in its microphones, as it almost always hears me the first time, so I use it for everyday things like weather and news. Whereas Google Home wins mightily in its integration with Control4, a popular home automation system, and our main hub for controlling everything in our house, including the TV, lights, blinds, etc. Now, this is Adam saying why he keeps both smart speakers around. He says, while Echo can work with Control4 too, the Google Home natural language is so much nicer. Compare Amazon's turn on dinner time to Google Home's dinner time. Like, that's all you have to say. You can also customize what Home says back for each command. So if you say dinner time and it dims the lights and starts the oven up, I don't know what else it does, turns some music on, then it will say, dinner is served or something. I don't know.
It's a reminder that what has happened before happens again. This is like, I have a PC for video games. I have a Mac for work. I have a thing for this and a thing for that. I have iOS for this and Android for that. It's going to be that way with this voice stuff for a while, I think.
By the way, I wanted to give credit. I told the story yesterday of one of the guys in the Slack who said they bought an Amazon Echo Dot for cheap, and then they use it just to turn on and off the lights and find it invaluable just for that. That was Doctor in our analyst Slack. And he said he was having a rough day at work, so it'd make his day if we gave him the credit. So there you go. Nice. Hope your day turned better, Doctor. Thanks for supporting us. Finally, Russell in nearly always perfect weather, Huntington Beach, California, except today it's kind of foggy. Your discussion on the Tuesday DTNS about self-driving cars navigating a four-way stop prompted me to write you about a driving incident I had this week. As I drove up to a traffic light intersection to make a left turn, I saw that the lights were flashing red, indicating a four-way stop. I stopped. I stopped. Then I began my left turn. To my surprise, I saw that the oncoming traffic was not slowing to stop. Looking up at the lights, I realized that the oncoming traffic had now had a green light. That's when I saw the traffic engineer at the corner. He had just re-enabled the normal light sequence as I was making my turn. Fortunately, the oncoming car went by in the other lane, and I scooted out of there to finish my turn. At the time, it made me wonder, how could any self-driving car possibly handle such a situation? The four-way stop discussion really highlighted for me how important it is for the future of self-driving cars that not only must they communicate with each other, but with traffic signals as well. That's the only way I see how the situation I experienced could be avoided.
Yeah. Wow. I'm a little blown away by that. That's freaky. I'm glad he's okay and nothing happened. But
yeah, no kidding.
I'm trying to think if that has ever happened to me where they were working on it at the time.
And they just turn the lights back on? Yeah.
It requires us, obviously, to notice that. But I hope smart cars are smart enough too.
Yeah. Because the current smart cars can see the lights and tell what they are, but might have made the same assumption he did. I guess they could react a little faster. I don't know, but that's weird.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah.
Well, thanks everybody for writing in and contributing to the show. We appreciate it so much. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. And thank you, Scott Johnson, for a great show today.
Yeah, always my pleasure. And may everyone's eye holes be better suited by robots from here on.
Robots in your eye hole is a positive thought. It may not sound like it depending on how you say it, but it really is. What you got going on these days?
Oh, there's so much. It's impossible to mention it all. So I would just recommend people go over to frogpants.com and check out everything that's on display there. Ramping up for Nerdtacular. We will have a live stream for that. Tickets have long been gone. Hotels are long sold out. But we are very much looking forward to it. Tom will be there and a lot of other Frog Panthers. And our goal is to stream the entire thing, at least the best we can, so people who could not go can still enjoy it. So keep your eyes on frogpants.com. You'll find the Nerdtacular site link right there. And man, it's going to be crunch time for the next month and a half. But we're really looking forward to seeing you guys there.
Appreciate all the hard work that goes into it, too.
Thanks, man.
Hey, thanks to everybody who gives a little value back to this show for the value we give you. If you find value in the show, if you're enjoying the show, we just asked you to kick a little funds back our way, either by Patreon or PayPal. Scott Slater, Dustin Boyd, Will Curtis are all people who put their money where their mouth is. Thank you guys for supporting the show. And if you would like to support it as well, head to patreon.com/DTNS. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 2030 UTC at alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv. We're at facebook.com/dailytechnewsshow and our website, you can guess it, dailytechnewsshow.com. Back tomorrow with Justin Robert Young. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the FrogPants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Nice.
Good show.
Yeah, that was great.
Well played.
I enjoyed it greatly. Greatly, I say.
You know, I wonder if, can you hear me?
Yep.
I don't understand. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Now I'm just thinking about robots in surgery. I mean, will that bring the cost of some of the more complicated surgeries down? Because then you don't need to rely on a specific individual who has, like, like they have the hands of a neurosurgeon or something like that.
Right. You just need the knowledge at that point, not necessarily the physical.
And even then, I mean, you could plot it out beforehand, right? But a team of doctors could say, okay, the best solution is,
yeah,
I totally agree. You
still want a surgical mind in there in case you come and run into something.
Yeah, but you don't. I mean, someone who might have, due to injury or age, may not have the same level of hand-eye coordination.
Yeah. Like Dr. Strange, for instance.
Yeah, I had a doctor who was well past his 60s, and he was borderline. I don't think it was Parkinson's, but something very similar, where it was, a little tremor. But luckily, he was just a GP and wasn't doing anything surgical.
Yeah, and Shane points out in our chat room, another thing to think about is how many people need eye surgery. You can multiply the number of people who have access to the surgery potentially.
Well, my mom needs surgery. I mean, there's pretty limited what they could do, but it'd be awesome.
Help me, R2. You're my eyes' only hope.
Unless you wear a patch, and then you're my eyes. Oh, I guess you could use either way, possessive or singular. All right, iRobot Get it from Zoe Brings
Yes.
Bacon. She
Got
brought
it.
that one.
It's a good one. It's kind of the leader right now.
Yeah, there's another one, Shane, iRobot. Yeah.
No
AI.
space,
Get
yeah.
it?
Not bad.
The iBots have it. Not your father's eye surgery. May the eye hole be with you. I think the term is called ocular cavity. Robot surgeon close enough for government work. Oh, Jesus Christ. I don't want that.
Uncle Owen, how about this one? It says it can fix eyes.
You know what? They need bionic eyes like yesterday. I spy a robot in my eye. You thought R2's jetpack was crazy. Nip and tuck, retina rat.
Nip and tuck.
Robots in your eye. Robo surgery in a heartbeat.
Here's robots in your eye.
I like iRobot from Zoe Being Cricket. That's the.
What do you think,
snappy.
Scott?
I think that one probably is best encapsulates
One of those. Yeah. One
The
of those.
ocular need of humanity.
I appreciate somebody who is at Bad Weave saying, screw you, Twitter. I appreciate the mention, even though I don't actually mean screw you, Twitter, when I say that.
That's a bad weave.
His name is Bad Weave, I think. Yeah. Yeah, username Bad Weave. As opposed to a good weave. Is there such a thing?
As long as it doesn't tug on your hair and eventually cause you to go bald.
There you go.
No, I just want bionic eyes. That way I don't, I don't have to wear glasses.
I do too. I want heads up display. I want
Yeah, heads up display.
AR in there.
I want the long sought after since the 50s X-ray vision. Like,
you're right.
with the
Oh, I got
glasses.
that from a comic book.
Yeah, whatever. It would be kind of cool if you could have laser beams in it, like heat vision, like Superman. But like, it wouldn't be like to stop crime or help people. It'd be like, oh, I want to heat up this frozen burrito, but the microwave is being used.
Mhm.
You can eat it right away.
You got to be careful because you could heat the plate up too much.
Well, use a I-beam safe Tupperware.
You know how Roger, you're always talking about people accidentally sending email to you that's meant for someone else.
Yes, someone did it to you.
Just got one. We are so excited to help you, dear Steve.
Steve. Wait, is his last name Merritt?
Cloud Auto Sales in Killeen, Texas. They don't say his last name. They just say dear Steve.
I'm starting to build up backstories for a lot of these people. I had one guy who applied for a college or university in Colorado, and I guess he was applying for student aid or something, and they were giving him all these options. They kept sending emails. It's like, we haven't heard from you. It's like, apparently because this guy's not smart enough to use his own email. That should be an automatic, you're not getting in this round.
I would kind of think so, right? It's a weed out factor.
Yeah, I think it. I mean, I don't want to be a jerk, but come on. I get all sorts of fun
Scott's
stuff.
really upset about this for the
No. I'm reading this Ardio, Death of Ardio deal. I got kind of went down a rabbit hole on this companies who didn't make it.
Oh, I got to
Poor
read this one because
It's funny. I'm not actually seeing names that jump that I'm that familiar with. I mean, I knew Groove Shark and Ardio, but everything else is new to me in here. Like, I never heard of Nouncer for Social or Argyle or Botway, Botti,
This? No, this is spam.
Berg, Sonar. I have no idea.
Wait, what?
The hell's
No,
Berg?
I didn't order this.
Did you order something you didn't order?
No, someone ordered some sort of marital aid, and it's like I got like a coupon, or whatever.
You did.
It's called spam, Roger.
What's this? A Nigerian
Someone,
print?
yes. Someone gave me an offer for some pills.
Yeah, but like I've never gotten these before.
That's why I think
It'd be
it's
one
spam.
thing if I constantly get it, but I don't. And now it's just. I
think
also
it's
have
spam
one
just
for Memorial
included.
Herman Urgent Care Center. They want my feedback.
I bet they do.
Oh,
They
not
want you to
Ardio.
execute that script attached to their email.
It wasn't Ardio I was thinking about. It was that podcast thing the Twitter guys were doing before.
Audio.
Audio is what I was
Yeah.
thinking of.
That actually makes sense why you got those mixed up in your head. Audio and Ardio.
Yeah, Ardio. I even had Ardio and I knew what it was, but Audio and Ardio, Yeah, I could. That's what happened there.
Ah,
That was
Wait,
the Twitter guys, right?
What's Ordio?
Odeo was a podcasting website that was Evan Williams and oh crap, Biz Stone. They started it while they were at Google, and then they left Google, and then they started Twitter as a side project, and then Twitter was more than Odeo, so they shut down Odeo.
Yeah, there it is.
Oh, I owe money to Progressive Leasing, according to this. Dear Roger, welcome to Progressive Leasing. You owe $120.
I also got one this week about thanking me for my recent visit to the hair salon in Florida.
Ah, those are the best hair salons, especially when they put the conch in it. They do the conch perm. It's nice.
That one wasn't spam. That was just like, it was definitely a follow-up, like, thank you. There
I
was
mean,
no-
like
no links or
a
anything.
majority of this emails I get are like that. They're follow-ups. It's like, oh, thanks for buying,
Yeah.
your thing at Jeep, whatever. Remember us for all your Jeep needs. When the car falls apart, and you need a tow.
I think some people just put the wrong email down because they don't want to actually get the email. So
Yeah, but like, do they realize like I have their account number, I have their phone number, like I have a lot of personal details that are added that I see.
do that. I mean, people shouldn't do that. They should be more careful.
Yes.
But then we always say that until it happens to us. Not everybody can be perfectly careful all the time. That's
apparently
what makes the
not,
internet
because this
go
one
round.
person, I've gotten 5 different emails from whatever stores he shopped at. Like I could I could do like a serial killer profile.
Were they shipped items? You could call and say you never received them, and you wouldn't be lying.
One of them, I think most of them were like home delivery. Yes, they were shipped. One of them was, I think, a receipt from
No.
like an Old Navy. He bought some sweaters. Like, oh yeah, just email me the receipt. They have that option.
Yeah.
A
The
lot of-
CVS does that now. You don't even get a receipt when you go into the store yourself. They just email it to you.
Man, it's one of those things. Internet should be a basic should be universal access.
Totally what happens the more it weaves its way into your life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't, it's covering old ground, I know, but electricity was a luxury until it was a necessity.
Yep.
You mean I'll have a future heart machine that will require this technology? Install it.
I mean, I remember my grandparents sort of scoffing at the idea that we would freak out if the power went out in a thunderstorm. Or like, you can get by without power just fine.
Just light the candle.
They had grown up without power.
Have a lantern. Make sure the barn's locked. You don't want the horses spooked.
But it's like now, how many people alive ever lived without power?
My dad.
Yeah.
Like for an appreciable amount of time.
Well, I mean, the last 1800s person just died, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but like there's like my dad grew up in a situation when he was raised initially that there wasn't electricity.
How old is he then?
He's 80.
Yeah, see, there's fewer and fewer people.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm sure there are other, people from other parts of the world might be in more remote locations.
Oh yeah, no, of course. Obviously, there's still countries that have power outages. I'm not. That's beside my point. I'm talking about within the United States,
right?
Because these kinds of rights issues are different from place to place too.
Right. It's a critical mass thing. I mean, at some point, those you just can't count those anymore. But like my wife's dad, I guess my father-in-law, he grew up in Mississippi at a time where there was no indoor plumbing. It was all, weird outdoor toilets and stuff like that.
I went to high school with people that had outhouses. I used to ask this, like, what do? You just take a roll of toilet paper under one arm and a
corn cob,
a bunch of newspapers in another.
Well, because I mean, you bring up the areas of the world that don't have reliable electricity, and the reason that is considered a problem is because of the developed areas that have matured to the point where electricity is a necessity. Before we had widespread electricity in the United States, not having electricity in a country was like, well, no, of course you don't. That's not a big deal.
Right. You could say it about transportation methods. You could say
yeah.
cooking methods.
It'd be interesting for people who've never had to deal with an internal combustion engine for anything, like a car, a tractor, and like so many things. Because I'm thinking of so many things that are dependent on fuel, right? Like gasoline, or diesel,
But there's more solar generators now. A lot of places where cell phones are rampant don't have reliable power, but they have reliable solar generators they can go recharge at. It's crazy.
Crazy.
All right. We're published. The show is up. Thank you all for hanging out with us. This was fun. We should do it again.
We should really.
Yeah. Maybe we'll do it again tomorrow.
It's on the bubble, but I think we should do it.
I asked Justin Robert Young if he'd be up for it, and he said, F yeah.
Oh, see?
So there you go.
That's a resounding.
It was a resounding curse.
Curse of Justin Robert Young.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Goodbye.